É, tirei do rei. You don't dey sabi ba? Better for you, you go get your own money when you come stay. Get this dey go. Don't snap
Hello, good morning, class. Hello, good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning, ma.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry for coming in late. I've been having network challenge from my own end.
Okay, ma. Thank you, ma.
Okay, yeah, almost like 30 minutes late, but I think I can see two people, so we should proceed with the lecture from here. Or are there some people that came in and left?
Yes, ma'am. Some left.
Okay, so if you are familiar with them, you may alert them offline so that they can join. It was actually a network issue. I tried to be here right from 10. We were delayed and held back. So maybe let me give you a few minutes to try to reach them offline so that they can join and we proceed.
Okay, ma'am.
Good morning, ma.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning,
We
ma'am.
can
Make it
start
dry.
now. Quite a number of people now connected.
Good morning, ma.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good
Sorry
morning, ma.
that we're starting late, but speed up so that we can catch up. So we are on to Law and Society SST 717. Are you there? Are members of the class there?
Yes,
Yes,
ma. Good morning, ma.
Yes, good morning. Okay. All right. So I had technical hitches from the beginning, but hopefully we are on now so that we can go ahead. So basically, many of you must have had a background lecture on social standard, and by my estimation, sorry I didn't introduce myself. I'm so conscious of the fact that I'm coming in late, so I'm committing some kind of blunders. I'm Barrister Stella Naswem, PhD. I'm going to be taking you on SST 717 Law and the Society. So, like I said, I was trying to lay a background as to the need for you as a student of the society to be conversant with some basic legal issues. You know, in my experience for seeing the idea of they don't see the need. Once they see anything in law, the first impression is that I'm not a lawyer, so I may not have much to do with law. But from your initial lectures or the basic fundamentals of
Ma, we can't hear you.
It's like she was locked out too.
Yes,
Okay.
they can't hear.
It means it's the network at our end.
Okay, so we are back. Sorry once again.
Okay, ma.
So I was trying to emphasize the fact that you must have had a background on basic issues of society. A student of the society, a student of social standard is a student of the society. You are dealing with prevalent issues that affect the society. You are dealing with issues that should be ensured that happen in a society that operates in standard. Even though I'm not a student, but by my experience, I'm familiar with the fact that the essence of your training is to inculcate in you basic standard that should be ensured in every way you are, in your workplace, in the organization where you work, at home, and in every way, even if you are a private sector oriented person. So it's very difficult to run a society without having even if it's not a full knowledge of the law or basic knowledge of the law. And I understand that's the reason why the people that designed this curriculum thought it wise that it's important for you to have basic knowledge of what law, because a society does not operate in a vacuum. A society has rules and regulations that guide it. So as Nigerians and as people that have, operate in this defined territory called Nigeria and in our various environments, we appreciate the role of law in whatever we do. And it's a deviation of those laws that you can say standards are degenerating, because they become like a measuring tool for whether the society is actually working accurately or not. So it becomes a major measuring tool for us as students of the society. And apart from the lecture, let me just give some little guides or regulations for this lecture. I want you to help me reach out to some of your mates if they are who have either joined or are intending to join. My classes are usually as participatory as possible, and we try to connect these issues to our day-to-day life so that it makes better meaning. So I wouldn't appreciate the idea of students logging in to, just to show their presence and go back. So from time to time, I'll be calling on students to make inputs. And so let's ensure that while it's lecture time, we are both together, and it's not something that is from the blues. What I'm teaching is what you are living with, and it's not a complicated issue that will throw you off balance. We are going to just pick on very basic issues of law that affects you as a person and the next person by you on a day-to-day basis, so that you both guide your own self and you are very conscious of what happens to the next person. So as we take on the topics, you will realize that there are things that you yourself is relating with on a day-to-day basis. Either you couldn't apply it or you didn't realize that you have been in it. So let's, as much as possible, try to be present in the class and be prepared to participate. I can call on anybody to make input so you don't get don't distance yourself and stay away. So like I said from the opening, we are going to be looking at very basic terms of law as they relate to you know, legal social standard or society generally. So it won't be issues of, I won't be asking you to be quoting cases for me. I won't be asking you to cram things and write down, so that you don't get scared from the beginning that, oh, this is a legal thing and you will need to cram and do all of that. No, it does not apply here. So the first concept, and subsequently I will share my notes, but I don't want to share the notes from the very beginning so that people don't get set, go and sit down and don't become serious. We are going to look at generally the Nigerian legal system. What does it mean? Because if we are talking about law and the society, the law has to do with the legal system. And the legal system, what does it mean? Now, the Nigerian legal system refers to the totality of laws in Nigeria and the machinery through which these laws are enforced. You know, talking about laws, we have laws at different levels. Now, away from the Nigerian legal system, which talks about laws in Nigeria, what is law? Law is a set of rules and regulations that guides the operation of an entity. And when we talk about rules and regulations, we are not saying it's only the rules or regulations that are written down. Those conventions and practices that we have come to accept as part of our lives on a daily basis, they are laws. You go to our traditional settings, they have their laws. They are not written down in books like a copy of the Nigerian Constitution is written down. If you are a worker, the rules that guide your working place, they are written down. But then when we talk about laws, we are not only talking about the written down laws. If you are to define law and to categorize law, there are written and unwritten laws. So I want you to address your mind to the fact that there are conventions, there are practices, there are rules that are not even written down anywhere. But unconsciously, we have come to accept them as a way of life. Now, if you go to our communities and our villages, there are certain things that when people do, everybody say, no, 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 this is an abomination. It is not written down anywhere. You can't find it anywhere. And there are even punishments that are assigned for that, because the people have come to accept that this is binding on us. As far as we in this particular community as far as we are concerned, this binds us. And anybody that goes against it is violating the rules. And if there are punishments that are laid down, such a person earns such punishment. So the Nigerian legal system generally is an embodiment of rules and regulations and the machinery through which these laws are enforced. And let me state from the beginning that we may have a lot of beautiful laws written down in big books, and every now and then our legislators are passing in laws. It's not the volume of the laws alone that matters. What makes the society effective is the enforcement. That's why in the definition of the Nigerian legal system, it does not just stop at the set of rules and regulations. It's talking about the machinery through which these laws are enforced. Now, when we talk about law enforcement, the quickest thing that comes to mind is law enforcement agents. And talking about law enforcement agents, you talk about the police, you talk about the civil defense, you talk about Nigerian army, you talk about, the courts, you talk about the paramilitary. But then I want you to see yourself as one of the enforcement agents of the law. Because whether legally, or statutorily or non-statutorily, all of us have a place in enforcement of the law. And that is where it concerns you as a student of the society. If you are a teacher, for example, your school has set rules and regulations as to the behavior of students, when they should come to class, how they should dress, how they should conduct themselves in the class. And if you are a teacher in that class, you are the enforcer of the rules that have been laid down. You will not wait for the police officer to come and tell the students, don't come in when it's 7:30, don't dress indecently into the class, except when the violation of those rules overpowers you, that you look for external intervention. So you yourself as a student of the society, if the society must work according to the standards, you are a key stakeholder in enforcement of these rules. So there are now two segments of the Nigerian legal system. One is the laws themselves. Another is the enforcement. And to me, the enforcement is as important as the law itself. Because we have a lot of laws in Nigeria, that's the truth. And if these laws were enforced, Nigeria would have been much more orderly and organized than what we see today. Because every now and then our state houses of assembly, our National Assembly members are passing in laws. The executive governor signs in executive orders. There are executive orders everywhere. There are existing laws that were there before many of us were born. There are laws that are being passed every day. In fact, there are new laws that are coming up as events are unfolding and situations are, coming up, and there is need to, pass laws. Laws are being passed every now and then. So what's lacking that the society is not conforming with standards? The weakness becomes enforcement, if you ask me. Yes, there are some laws that need upgrade. There are certain laws that need repealing. There are some that need amendments. But my line of thought is, even the ones that we have available, if only we had enforced them, the society must have complied with the standard much more than where we are. So I want you to enlarge your heart and accept the fact that you are also a key stakeholder in the Nigerian legal system. Don't just leave yourself aside and look at the police and the people that carry arms and wear uniforms alone. You are a very key stakeholder. Even if you are a church leader in your right, your church has rules. And if those rules must be complied with, then you have a role as a leader in your community. You may be a student leader, even in your class right now. If the class has agreed on certain things and you are the leader of the class and you refuse to enforce them, you could see that there will be disorder in the class itself. So from the very beginning, it has to settle with you that, yes, you are part of the Nigerian legal system. So this Nigerian legal system we're talking about did not just come to be. We have a little history to it that becomes the history of the Nigerian legal system. And the legal system stems from the colonial era, which I mentioned in passing when I was explaining the issue of the written and unwritten laws, that, the pre-colonial era had to do with laws that were in operation before the standardization of the laws that we have now. Our forefathers, our traditional institutions had rules. They had customs, they had norms, they had values, they had conventions, they had practices that people had accepted. One key thing about law is that people have to accept, directly or indirectly, as binding on them, so that they take responsibility when when they go against it or somebody else goes against it. So law did not just come to be. Law came from a history And that history is rooted in our traditional institution before the coming in of the colonial masters. Now, arising from there, we have the colonial era, and then we have the post-colonial era, which is where we are at the moment. The colonial masters came in, they married the traditional institution, the traditional laws that were there with the laws that they came in, they were brought in. That's what we call the received English law. They brought in their own, but at the same time, they also took into account what was in existence to be able to codify, or can I say institutionalize what became what they used to run the system until it was handed over to us back at independence. And that post-colonial era became the system that we are running up to now, which we are upgrading and repealing some laws, amending some, bringing in some, and as occasion present itself, and if there's a vacuum, there's need for new laws like the Cyber Crimes Act that has been passed recently, has come on board because of the need for it. The cyber crimes or cyber activities were not very common in the past few years from now. So nobody really saw the need for it. But as cyber activities are, becoming prevalent, and we are making use of the internet, we are operating on a virtual, operating virtually, even having virtual markets, we're having virtual classrooms that we have now, e-banking, and then so many things are unfolding. Then a vacuum was obvious that the laws did not cover up on some of these issues. And so many laws are requiring to be amended on account of this. Even our evidence law has to be amended because you have to tender evidence. So there's need for expansion and provision to accommodate some of these issues. So we are in the post-colonial era, and we are updating and upgrading our laws. Now, quickly we look at the sources of Nigerian law. These are just the basics, so I'll share the notes. I don't want to spend much time on it, but you need to have this foundation to be able to arrive where we are going. We have basic sources of Nigerian law, because you can't talk about the Nigerian legal system without knowing how we came about it. Yes, the colonial masters came, took their own laws, married with our own traditional laws, and at the end, we had documents to work with. And when they left, our Nigerian legislators continue to pass laws, to sign in laws, executive orders, and all. And in Nigeria, the mother law that we have is the Nigerian Constitution. So every other law that you see in organization, they take you from there, because anything that goes against the Constitution outrightly becomes null and void. It's not acceptable. The Constitution may look very small, a booklet, but whatever law that is created outside of it is guided by that Constitution. So how did we develop our own laws? The first is a common law known as the received English law. I mentioned it because up till now, our laws have a good touch of what was received, or can I say it formed a basis. The received law, the common law that was brought in by our colonial masters, has become like the basis of our laws. We are only developing some of the laws based on our own peculiar situation and peculiarities. So the common law, or the received English law, is a source of law in Nigeria. Then the customary law, which I've also mentioned. If you look at some of our laws, you could see a touch of it, being accommodated in it, because we have not completely thrown away our traditions, especially the ones that have positive effects. We have not discarded them. They are very useful to us. So the customary law is part of our legal documents. They have a bearing on our legal system because we make use of our customs. In fact, in the hierarchy of the Nigerian courts, you have the customary courts, You also have the customary court of appeal. And these courts are there designed to take care of customary disputes that arise, because there are certain things that arise that the codified law that we have that has a bearing on the English law does not directly address such. So the customary law remains a good part of our legal system. Then the Sharia law is also a source of law. Sharia law is the opposite of the customary law, because the Sharia law applies to the people that are of Islamic background. So if you hear about things like Sharia law in Sharia law or Sharia courts in the northern Nigeria, they have their guiding principles are drawn from the Sharia law. Now, precedence or case law is a source of law. What is precedence or case law? These are decisions of higher courts. In law, the pronouncement of the higher courts is law in itself, especially higher courts like the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. When they make their decision, the lower courts, in trying to decide on similar issues, can follow the same line of thoughts of the higher courts. So it becomes a part of law. Whatever pronouncement they make, especially the Supreme Court, because a decision of a Court of Appeal is higher than that of a high court, but a decision of a Court of Appeal can be reversed by the Supreme Court. So precedence is part of our law. Then the textbooks, the textbooks also form part of what our academics, the brain work they do in studying, is part of the law that we make use of. So there are certain concepts that we are drawn from the studies that are carried out by people that are in academia, or people who are even in practice but have taken the pains to make their own contribution by writing textbooks or writing articles. Some people can just get interested and take on a particular area of law and study, write about it, and inspiration can be drawn from it. So that may not be exhaustive, but we just pick these few as sources of law. So our tradition, English received laws, precedents, they form parts of our law. So from there, we are now beginning to settle on very, very practical and key issues. We needed to know where we have come about and where we are in terms of law. If the legal instruments are the laws that we have, and you are also one of the enforcers of these laws, you need to know how we came about some of these laws. And it also gives rooms for improvement, because if tomorrow another area comes up that you search and discover that it has no regulation, then anybody can sponsor a bill. There are people that sponsor private bills to houses of assembly and they become law. But we are going to take a good look at the Constitution. Now, the constitutional framework, first of all, we will look at what the Constitution itself is. We will look at the fundamental human rights. This is one area that as a student of the society, you must be very, very familiar with. Because the human rights is what concerns you, is what concerns another person, is what of another person it makes regulating the society easier. So what is a constitution? A constitution is a set of acceptable rules that determine how a country or a state is run. A constitution is a set of acceptable rules that determines how a country or a state is run. Now we have constitutions that are written, you have constitutions that are unwritten, you have constitutions that are flexible, the ones that are rigid, unitary, or a federal. And for us in Nigeria, we are running a federal constitution. And the federal constitution requires that the three arms of government work side by side and supervise each other. And the three tiers of government also work independently, but at the same time, they are interdependent on each other. So the rules that will come about in the constitution, they are, when I use the word acceptable, other people will wonder, what if it's not acceptable by us? But if you open the constitution, you will see a clause, an opening clause that say, we the people of Nigeria have accepted, and all. So it's by implication, this constitution is binding on you because we cannot all be gathered together to be made to adopt the constitution, but we elected our leaders. These leaders that we send to House of Assembly, the leaders that we send to National Assembly, they are meant to be our voice. They are meant to represent our interests. They are also meant to speak for us. So even if there's a constitutional amendment today, you can only send your own contribution or what you think should be added or should be taken away from the constitution through your representative. And he will collect all these inputs. And at the constitutional amendment conference, he will also submit. Now, it is expected that when he submits his view and they are taken, you are now represented in the amendments. So when it is signed into law, you can see that it is binding you because your representative spoke for you or for your community. And even if you didn't have an opportunity to submit an input or a memoranda, eventually your representatives that you voted are the ones that will be speaking at times like this. So it represents you. So the rules that come back and bind us, they now become binding, they become acceptable. We accept it directly or indirectly. So what we accept now becomes what binds on us. So we cannot say we are not part of it because we're not there when they were writing it, then it wasn't, we're not part of it. So now, critically, the constitution, the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria as amended has a lot of provision. It has made several provisions. But the aspect that we are going to look at more critically is the aspect of the fundamental human rights. Now, let me pause at this point and interact with the class. Talking about the fundamental human rights, I want to get your personal views about what you think or what you understand fundamental human rights to be. So I expect responses from the class. If you are ready, you can put up your hand so that we allow you to speak. Okay, I can see Grace's hand up. Now you can speak, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma, for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, my contribution in regards to
We are listening.
fundamental human rights is every individual right to hearing, right to vote and be voted for,
Yeah.
and we also have rights. I'm trying to use the right word now.
Yeah,
Okay.
you use it anyhow.
Fundamental rights.
Use it in a way that you understand and we can all understand.
Actually, the fundamental human rights is the basic rights that is entitled to individual that he
Yeah.
or she is meant to enjoy in a particular society,
Yes.
which he is actually living at that particular place. And those rights are, like you said, was carefully looked into as a result of the existing rules that was governing either from the pre-colonial era or the
Okay.
post-colonial era, and which is
All
binding
right.
in several societies. So, the institution exists so that people have fairness, like fairness in terms of maybe being heard, fairness to access to some certain resources that
Okay.
is they are meant to benefit from, and
Yes.
justice so that they can also get the right justice they require as well. Thank you, ma.
Okay. All right. That is a good contribution. I want another person to make a contribution. I want us to really discuss this. Let's understand what the fundamental human rights are. She has made a very good contribution. So, Precious, your hand is up.
Yes, ma. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll just simply put it as ways that people can express themselves in society that encourages fairness and justice. Just to add to what Grace already said.
All right. That's beautiful. I can see Elizabeth's hands too up.
Yes, ma. Good morning, ma.
Good morning.
Yes, ma. As we always say, fundamental human rights, we always say right to freedom of speech or right to freedom of expression. Everyone has the right to
Yes.
express their opinions freely through speech, through writing, or through other medium. And then right to freedom of thought and conscience. We also have
Okay, it appears her
right.
network.
Okay, can anyone hear me? Okay, let me change my
Yes,
location. Can I be heard?
I can hear you, Claire.
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. Go ahead. At some point, I couldn't hear.
Okay. Okay, I said right to freedom of expression. That was the number one fundamental human right I said. Then the other one I said right to freedom of thought and conscience.
Okay.
And I said
Yes.
that people can believe and worship whatever they want to worship.
Yes.
Okay, then the other one I said right to freedom of fair hearing.
Yes.
Every person is supposed to be heard. Like we should be able to express ourselves, and then there should be people that will listen to our expression, not by discriminating us based on who we are.
Okay.
Yes, ma. These are some of the fundamental human rights I have to say, ma.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your contributions. We don't have guys in class. Oh, the ladies here are just taking the center stage. Okay, now that it's quiet, it appears these are the only contributions we have for now. So we go ahead. Yes, I'm impressed by the various contributions that are made so far. Now, I want to make some quick additions. I want to look at the definition before we pick on the rights individually. Because like I said, this is going to be the meat of our lectures. So we are going to dissect those rights one after the other and relate them to our day-to-day dealings, because many of you are development workers, many of you are working in organized sector, many of you are working in several places, but generally a student of the society deals with people. Is Samson's hand up? Hello? Hello?
Hello, ma. Yes, ma.
Okay,
Can you hear
okay,
me?
Samson, can we hear you? Yes.
Hello, ma. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about the rights that Lizzie talked about. I want to contribute mine.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I think from my own end, yes.
What's happening?
We can hear you. We can
We
hear
can
you,
hear you,
Samson.
actually. Yes, Samson, we are hearing you.
I hear you.
Okay. Maybe he himself is not sure we can hear him. So maybe I can go on when your network is clear. I'll give you the floor again. So, like I was saying that I needed to, something anytime your network is up, you will still have the opportunity to make your contributions, because I really want us to make it a participatory class. So I wanted to add, first of all, to the definition that the fundamental human rights, they are inalienable entitlements that belong to every human being. They are inherent and inalienable entitlements that belong to every human being, regardless of race, gender, nationality, religion, or status. The word inherent helps you to explain why the Constitution say it is fundamental. It is inherent in the sense that it's like once you are born a Nigerian, it applies to you. It is so fundamental, it should be natural. It belongs to you by rights. It belongs to you because you are a Nigerian. Talking about the fundamental human right in the perspective of Nigerian Constitution. So long as a child is born, that child does not need to do any other thing before he acquires some of these rights. So it is something that is very natural. You enter into it so long as you are a Nigerian, whether by birth, whether by naturalization, whether by registration, because there are different ways of acquiring citizenship in Nigeria. Whether you are married into this country or your parents were born here, by the definition of the constitution, that the standards of becoming a citizen. It is so natural, it is so inherent. And this is supposed to be given to you irrespective of your race, your gender, your educational background, and all. So long as you are entitled to it and you can merit it in some instances. Because when we talk about equitable distribution of resources as students of the society, of course, when it comes to certain rights, even though they belong to you, but you may not have what it takes to get. Let's talk about employment, for example. The federal character components of employment, if it is to be enforced, requires that employment should be drawn from the various regions of the nation. Now, if a certain employment opportunity comes up and require a certain level of qualification and you did not go to school to that level, it is a right, but you are limited by certain factors. But naturally, you are entitled to certain basic rights. And we're going to be picking those rights one after the other, and we'll be discussing them. So I will allow everybody to make contribution once we pick every of the rights and we're talking about it. First of all, we are going to look at right to life. Now, the Constitution categorically states that every Nigerian is entitled to right to be alive. Now, right to life is so elaborate. The provision is very short, but the implication is very elaborate. Right to life entails that you should not take somebody's life except in a situation of execution of a death sentence, which is passed by a well-constituted law court. established by law. So where you deprive somebody of his right to be alive is an infringement on his rights. You shouldn't deprive this person of his right to be alive. So some of the things that happen and people's lives that are taken unconstitutionally or extrajudicially, it is a deprivation of their fundamental human right. Let me also quickly add here, as we proceed, you will get to apply it more, that there's a procedure in courts that we call enforcement of fundamental human right. You see, the issue of fundamental human right is so key that even the law and the courts themselves know that our legal system can prolong issue, cases can last in court for 10 years, 5 years, 6 years. Now, when it comes to enforcement procedure, the court has shortened it such that it is given it's given priority when your rights are being violated and you are seeking to enforce the law, the rights, whether yourself or relatives in case of right to life. Some people, when their lives are taken, they may not be there personally to pursue such cases, but the relative can, because the lives of their loved ones was deprived extrajudicially or unconstitutionally. So let's take cases of extrajudicial killings where sometimes our law enforcement agents, take lives in a manner that it shouldn't be. Yes, in such instances where you know that you are not supposed to be killed or your relative is not supposed to be killed in the situation where he's killed, you have the right to seek redress and file for enforcement. If you remember clearly, there was a time that the Nigerian youth protested, agitated against and brought about the NSAS protest, NSAS protest. That NSAS protest gave rise to panels that the Nigerian government set up, panels across all the states in the nation to look at cases of violations, cases that had to do with the police and violations, extrajudicial killings, and the brutality of police and the Nigerian army and the paramilitaries, where people cried out on instances where, let's give practical examples, somebody is just arrested, taken to the police station, and the person is not found. Or at the point of arrest, there's an allegation that the person was resisting arrest, and before you know, they find the corpse of the person somewhere. These are cases of deprivation of right to life. It is expected that there's a general principle of law that even in criminal cases, proof has to be beyond reasonable doubt. So the issue of life is not a light issue, even in the eyes of the law. Even a criminal that is caught in the act should be given an opportunity to defend himself in court. It's not enough to just lay hold of a criminal while he's committing the crime and just kill him. No, it's a deprivation of his right to be alive. Because what if the person given an opportunity put up a defense that proves that he wasn't even guilty of that offense in the first instance? So it's a key, and it's one of the core rights to be alive. And in as much as we have seen a lot of brutality, we have seen, cases where people are killed and people just say, well, it's an act of God. It's God that gave life. It's God that took life. So be it. I feel that it's ignorance of the position of the law. Even where people commit offenses that the punishment is death sentence, the law requires that it is only by the pronouncement of the court of law that this person is guilty of so and is sentenced to death, And even the sentences to death, his nature of death is even specified. And he's sentenced to death by hanging or by any other means. So it's not enough. Yes, we know there are some capital offenses that the punishment is death sentence, like murder, like armed robbery. Where you are found guilty of murdering another person, you are also sentenced to death. We have seen a current case of one of the popular singers in Nigeria, a Christian musician, who was alleged to have been brutalized by her husband, and she died in the process. And the man stood trial and was convicted and was sentenced to death. So it is expected that, it would have been wrong if the family member just ganged up and got up and killed the man. Because if anybody did that thing and killed him extrajudicially, the person too could also be prosecuted. So it will become a chain of prosecution. So that is how important it is. So when people's right to life is being taken, even if they are already not alive, relatives can take it up and prosecute such issues. I believe that Osinachi's relatives are the one that prosecuted the matter. She was no longer alive. And a number of cases have happened. I've had to be in court where I witnessed, even here, there was a time, a case of I think a BIRS staff who was on duty at North Bank, who was alleged to have been killed by the members of the Nigerian army, and the matter went to court. The relatives took it up. The man was actually killed, he died, but the relatives took it up, prosecuted the matter, and I read the judgment of the Benue State High Court on the matter, awarded a fine of, is it about 50-something million in favor of the family against the Nigerian army. And the Nigerian army was, directed by the court to pay that sum to the family of the deceased person, of the person that died. Now, the essence is that, yes, we cannot bring back the life of that person that had died, but at least what has been awarded should serve as succor to the family that he left behind, because he must surely have left a wife and children, and he was the one fending for them while he was alive. So the issue of right to life, right, somebody's life should only be taken when when the court determines, or if the person chooses to die by himself, then his right is no longer deprived. I'm also aware of cases of people of certain religions that don't allow certain treatment upon themselves. So, like in the course of studying medical jurisprudence, I'm aware that is an established fact, so I'm not against any religion. It's a fact that is established. The people that are from the Jehovah's Witnesses background don't accept blood transfusion when they are sick and blood transfusion is required. So when such people are on admission and it comes to that, they vehemently oppose, they refuse that such decision should not be taken against them. So in such instances, if these people insist and the procedures are carried out in such a manner and they die, their rights are not taken away from them. They consented to it. They agreed. Now, on the contrary, even if you are a parent of a child, the court feel that right to life is so important that even as a parent, if you are a parent and you are a Jehovah's Witness and you took your child to the hospital, that child is not of age of consent yet. You cannot decide that blood should not be transfused to such a child. That's how important these fundamental human rights are. If you do and that child dies, any interested member can prosecute such a parent. Because such a decision was pronounced recently, seen by the Supreme Court, where a father and a mother took their child to the hospital and they refused that blood will not be transfused to that child. And eventually the child died. And the relatives of the the mother of this child took the matter to court. And the court interpreted that right to life is so fundamental that this child, yes, was not of an age of consent. When it comes to issues that are as key as fundamental human rights, parents cannot decide on whether the child should live or die. Such a child should be given an opportunity to grow up to decide whether he even wanted to be of a Jehovah's Witness faith or not. But he has not come of that age, and you have made such a critical decision that will take his life away from him without allowing him to get to that age where he would have taken a decision that is as critical as that. So imagine that even a parent does not have the right to take the life of his or her own child. So that's how critical it is. And it's not only in this circumstance, the parent cannot even get up and take the life of a child brutally. If he does, he will be prosecuted for murder and he can be sentenced to death on account of that. So we have the liberty to sue, to seek enforcement of the right to life over relatives whose life are taken extrajudicially, and not just to keep quiet. But it's one thing if you know what is the right thing. And talking about the law enforcement agent, it's not only law enforcement agent that take people's lives. What about the jungle justice that we see? People feel that the judiciary is so slow and is biased, because in the other class we had, everybody cried out and they lamented that there's so much unfairness, there's so much corruption. People are being preferred on account of their wealth, their riches and all, so they prefer to take laws into their own hands. But no, yes, people are caught in the act of crime, but the law does not permit any individual to lynch such a person or set him ablaze. That's jungle justice and its brutality. Now, if such a thing happens and the individuals that particularly carried out such acts are identified, they can be prosecuted and sentenced to death. They can be prosecuted and sentenced to death. So it is very important. It is very important that we note that you don't have the liberty to take people's lives the way you want. You don't have such a right. So right to life is that key, is that important. So as we deal with others, we must have full respect for their rights to be alive. And when you also know how serious this thing is, it helps you to place a lot of control over your own over your temperament or your personality. As a husband, you cannot get up and say, because I paid dowry for this woman and she's misbehaving, so I'll beat her. And because of beating the person, some people have ended up dying. If the woman dies in the circumstance, you have taken her life. Her relatives can sue you for enforcement, and the court will prosecute, the government will prosecute you for murder. You can go to jail, you can stay there for serve life imprisonment in the Nigerian Correctional Center, and a lot can happen. So it's very, very important. I want some contributions on this, because sometimes people have issues that bother their minds on issues like this. So we are not going to just run down the rights. The rights are going to be the main discussion. So if somebody has a question, a contribution on this, you can make it. I can see Samson's hand up. Samson, is your hand up? Or is then? Okay, Grace, you want to speak? You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for the opportunity. I got enlightened in the course of this particular right to life, because you mentioned about the Jehovah Witness, that if maybe a child need blood transfusion, and the parents, because of their religious belief, they are not agreeing to that, that is against the law and such can be prosecuted. I didn't actually know that the law covers that, because I have seen that in a hospital where a child has issue like cancer, and they wanted to transfuse blood to the child. And then the child, it was not up to like 2 years. He looks healthy, but the parents frowned that they didn't agree. So knowing that the law covers this, so excited, because I was feeling bad that the child wasn't given the right to decide what he or she wants. Because
Yeah.
after all, the child grows up, he might end up changing from Jehovah Witness to maybe another faith. So I'm happy that the law covers this, and that it can be prosecuted. And for someone studying this social standard, um, it can help someone to actually fight for a particular child right in this regard, whether in the hospital or anywhere where you feel this person's rights wasn't given. So thank you so much, Ma, for this enlightenment.
Okay. All right. In the absence, okay, Amos, your hand is up.
Yes, ma. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much, ma.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, ma. Mine is a question.
Yes.
I want to ask, in a situation where you are attacked, maybe attempted to kill you, someone attacked you, maybe with something, and at that point you overpower the person and kill the person, will you still be persecuted or?
Okay. Yeah.
Because
Yes, I'm listening.
I say I've seen situations like that where someone was attacked, almost killed, but maybe God favored the person and overpowered the one that was attacked, that attacked the person, and at the end he succeeded in killing the person. Will that person who defeated, or maybe self-defense, will this still be called? Will the person still be prosecuted?
No. This person is what he did is what we call self-defense in law. Self-defense is a defense that's available in cases of murder and certain offenses. Now, but self-defense has to be proven. You have to really convince the court on the circumstances that led to that. Ordinarily, the law has made provision that you can defend yourself. There are a number of defenses in law. That's why there's room for prosecution. And I think as we are studying these rights, you will take note of certain things, and it will help you to understand why people that are not knowledgeable are always very impatient with the law and the system. Now, you have brought out this issue of self-defense. Do you know, for other people, so long as they have seen somebody kill somebody, is enough to kill that person too? You don't know what gave rise to that. There are a few defenses. We are not dealing with criminal law here, so I won't go into it, but there are certain defenses that are available for people who commit certain capital offenses. That's why, even where somebody does not even have the money to pay the services of a lawyer to defend him when he's standing trial for capital offenses, the government itself has made provision for institutions like the Legal Aid Council, where there are government-paid lawyers, should take on some of these cases. The reason is not necessarily to go and exonerate that person, but to give him an opportunity to be heard, so that if there was good reason that gave rise to that, his sentence could either be reduced or he may even be innocent. Now, in cases of murder, for example, self-defense is one of the defenses that is available, where you can establish that you did this act because you were trying to also save your own self and defend your own self. The law, if you convince the courts and you have evidence with you, you can be exonerated. Now, if you can prove where I say I don't want to go into criminal law, so let me leave it. But that also, there are other related defenses. I don't want to give it free of charge like that, because some people may take advantage of it and begin to beat people. So I don't, let me stop at what
Okay,
you.
thank you so much.
Okay, so that's self-defense, but it has to be proven. It's not just a cheap defense at all, because remember, someone else's life has gone. So the court will not just, you can't just get up and say it was defending myself. There are indices you must thoroughly prove before you come to a level where you can be exonerated or otherwise. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
because recently happened like that in Adamawa State, where a Fulani man attacked a farmer in the farm, and the man defeated the Fulani man. At the end, I heard the man was charged, sentenced to death by hanging, and a lot of us were very mad at it. So I don't know
Yes.
whether.
Yeah, actually, I think I heard of that case, but I think that matter must have been taken to appeal. That decision must have gone to appeal, because I didn't hear of the execution. That's why there are levels of courts in Nigeria that give room for other people to have a take a look at what one court has decided. The court is manned by judges, and these judges are also human. I'm not concluding. I'm not even in the jurisdiction where this case was decided, but sometimes cases are decided and something can affect the mind of a judge, or the evidence before him or her may make him vulnerable to take certain decisions. But when these cases are taken to appeal, either Court of Appeal or from Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, and that is why a court that are sitting in appellate capacity, they don't sit alone. Actually, in the spirit of the spirit that has designed the law did it in such a way that people should be given ample opportunity to really air out their minds sufficiently. If you go to Court of Appeal, the judge don't sit alone again. If you go to Supreme Court, they even sit more. The reason is such that even if one person did not reason well, another person should be able to reason well. And at the end, they should come up with a decision that will be favorable to the people that are concerned. So it's an issue of proof, and that proof has to be beyond reasonable doubt, so that you can really defend it. You don't just get up out of anger and frame up an issue. That's why even the law enforcement agents that are statutory, sometimes the law take it up against them when they claim this issue of this person was resisting arrest, or the person, no, it's not just enough. They were trying to fight back. You have to prove how they were fighting back. For example, you cannot fight somebody who came without arms, and you are carrying arms, and you say the person was resisting you. To what extent? What's the gravity of the resistance he was putting up? How can somebody that is without arms, fight somebody that is carrying arms to the extent that he may take his life? Then you want to, take it up on a person by using your arms against the person. So it's not a cheap defense. The defense has to be proven properly. Okay, I can see Grace's hand up. Or is it?
Okay, ma. Thank you so much, ma, for the opportunity. Okay. Like you said, before now, I feel when somebody is maybe commit an offense, maybe that has to do with murder, he was caught in the acts, and I get to see that there will be court process and all that. So I in my mind, I would like, this person was already caught in the act, and so why the time waste, the money, in terms of trying to like go through the court process and all that. Like I used to feel the evidence is enough. And so, but it has given me a different mindset now, that even if the person was caught in the act of killing someone, the other thing that must have happened before that incident is not known to anybody. Maybe the person was attacked first, and then that person was doing it in self-defense. So it has made me to appreciate why stuff like that shouldn't get um, to be treated immediately, but it should go through the normal legal processes. Thank you so much, ma.
Okay, thank you. So I think from here we will move to right to dignity of human person is the next right. Now, right to dignity of human person has to do with respect on the person of an individual. You know, I hope that is not cumbersome. Having respect on an individual generally. The fact that this person is a human being, inherently, he deserves to be respected. He should not be made to go through torture. He should not be unnecessarily harassed. He should not be unnecessarily brutalized, humiliated in circumstances that are unwarranted. So, right to dignity of person emphasizes the fact that once someone is a human being, he deserves to be treated with dignity, respect for being human at all. You know, whether you are wealthy, whether you are educated or not, the fact that you possess these rights is earns you respect for being a human being at all. Now, there are a few examples I want to point out because you are a student of the society, and these are some of the prevalent things that we see. And sometimes when we are not knowledgeable, we feel that it's okay. Maybe the person deserves it. There was a time, I'm based in Makodi. There was a time in those early days when the GSM came up newly. There was a practice that seemed to be growing. You notice somebody maybe went to the market or to a GSM shop, and they'll just raise alarm that this person stole a phone or something. It could be true. It could be a lie. And the next thing you see, is really for ladies, the next thing you will see is to strip the lady naked, that they are looking for, whether she hid the handset in her pants or something. They will just tear all her clothes, leave her naked. Now, these are some of the practices that, in the eyes of the law, is taking away the dignity of that person. Now, the question as to whether she actually stole the phone or not is an issue of proof. And the law is careful to design punishments for every offense, because every offense carries a punishment specifically for it. That's why our laws are very careful to cover specific areas and specific offenses. Any law that carry only offense and does not define or specify its offense is null and void. It's not a proper law. So there's punishment for theft. There's punishment for burglary. There's punishment for stealing. There's punishment for all of this. So if somebody carries someone's handset or he went into a shop and stole something, there's a procedure for prosecution. This person should be arrested. And do you know, ideally, by the laws of our land, if a lady steals and you suspect that she stole something and hid it in her pants or her underwear, the proper thing is to bring a female police person, a female police lady, to come and search her. She will get warrants, search warrants, and search her on her person. Show her the warrant and search her. She can be arrested. The matter can be reported. The police will come and take her. When they take her to the police station, or if they want to search her there and she's a lady, they have to bring in a female police officer who will search her. The essence is that she should not be harassed. She should not be embarrassed publicly. She should be made to face the wrath of the law. And, Sorry, I can see a question. We are discussing right to dignity of human person. That's the second right to dignity of human person. So the fact that she may have stolen sincerely does not. You know, let's not mix the issues up, because this is where people get angry with lawyers and they say, yes, we know that this person is a criminal. It is these lawyers that are always defending, they are always defending. You know, don't forget that sometimes these things could be a setup. And don't also forget that somebody is already angry with this person. And what if they search this woman and they end up not seeing this thing? They have already embarrassed her. And, you know, so terrible that sometimes why they are, you know, stripping her naked. You see people taking videos and posting it online. And I've seen instances where some people went and committed suicide after this kind of publicity, uncharitable publicity. They commit suicide because they cannot stand the publicity or what has happened. Now, right to dignity of person can be enforced in such an instant, even if the person actually stole. The law can prosecute her on the criminal dimension, sentence her to a number of years of imprisonment that she deserves. You know, if the person sue her from the civil perspective, she can be made to pay certain fines and all of that. But after it all, she'll go and sue whoever stripped her naked and enforce her right to dignity of person. Now, that's not the only dimension. How about child torturing of children or torturing of people? There are some people that put people under inhuman and degrading treatment. These are the things that the courts, you know, frown at. You know, there are some people that are literally tortured. Let's look at practical instances of maybe children that are brought from the villages to live with aunties and uncles in town. You witness experiences that is basically just torture. I want to tell you that no matter how much you want to be of help to a child that is helpless, that child is also entitled to rights. When it goes beyond the child's fundamental human rights, you are depriving that child of fundamental human rights. I know this particular aspect because the Constitution is very definite on it. When it gets here, we always have arguments. People ask questions of ma. Okay, so now let's look at a practical example like children that hawk. There are some children that are brought from the villages, while the children of the person that brought them are going to school, they are hawking the streets. That can come under child's rights anyway, but it also falls here too. Some children are so tortured, they are deprived of basic food at home where they are brought in. There's, you know, yes, there's some will tell you that I brought this child to come and serve me. There is a limit between serving you and being tortured. So you see physical brutality that's meted out on this child. So when it comes to this, sometimes you see some NGOs, you see some human rights activists taking on some of these cases and prosecuting it. So when it comes to this, there are some arguments that people put up that, but when they brought this child from the village, at least compared to what the child is now, is better than where the child is coming from and all of that. There's a clear dividing line between torture and basic care. We're not saying you should give the child more than what you have. You can basically give the child what is within your ability. But putting the child under torture is forbidden by Child's Rights Act and it's a violation of the child's rights, you know, where he cannot even get some basic, and it is proven that you are in a capacity to give such child some of those basic needs. So some of these rights, we have to look at them very carefully, you know. So, and sometimes even the parents are insisting, I don't want the child to go back. Yes, this child has left the village, so he must remain in town without even knowing what the child. There are instances you will see somebody will beat a child and allow the child to sleep outside, that the child is being stubborn. So when I come across cases like this, my question is that this child has rights of dignity and right to life. To me, I prefer this child goes back to the village, even if he comes from the remotest of villages. Let him or her go back and be alive. You don't know what provision God may have for that child. He may grow up in a village quite okay. The luck may fall on him or her and may find help. Rather, exposing this child to torture and to the kind of life that will become an undue exposure that would rather even lead him to criminality or certain acts that the child didn't even plan to do. So torture and dignity of human person applies to instances like this, including men that beat their wives. Men that beat their wives in our African society and feel that because they paid the bride price of the woman and they married her, then you have the right to physically beat her and to put her through certain torture is a violation of her fundamental human rights. It is sincerely. And I think for men that are in this class, I don't want to believe that you will belong to that kind of a class, because apart from the fundamental human right, there are laws in place now that you cannot beat your wife. It is torture. You are disgracing her. Some will do it deliberately, maybe rip her naked in the public in the name of, if the woman has misbehaved and you think you can no longer marry her, you can let her live by relieving her of the marriage. She will be alive. Maybe one day she will change and become a better person. You can also live your life without her. But if you cross the borderline and she wants to take it up, she will take it up. No matter, because remember, this woman is no longer a child, she's an adult. Even if the two families come together and insist that this thing is a marriage thing, is a family thing, it is a this one, if she chooses to take it up, she will take it up, because she's not an underage, she's a full-blown adult. So the law is very, very specific, it's very careful, that so long as you are a human being, even if you are a criminal, your right to dignity should be preserved to a certain level. Even if you were caught stealing, it's not enough to torture the person. Allow the law to take its course on the person. Because I've seen instances where people, after facing the law, they come back and they confront such brutalities and they claim their rights to be alive. We are not going to go further than this rights today. So if there's anybody that has a question or a contribution, we quickly run it so that we... Yes, I can see Joseph's hand up. Joseph, we are ready to hear you if you are still there.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, class.
Yeah.
All right, mine is a question I want to ask concerning the child rights you talk about briefly.
Yes.
As maybe for instance, a neighbor where you see that a child has been maltreated severally, and you have talked to the person whom the child is with, but it's somehow as if bringing a quarrel. And the torture continue for the boy or the child. As a neighbor, what else do you need to do? Because I am sure if you remain silent and anything should happen to such person, I think government will also hold you responsible. So I don't know the way forward, what next you can do. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Let me quickly respond. There are a number of things you can do And if you were here from the beginning of the lecture, I took time to explain that actually you are a very key stakeholder in ensuring that there are standards in our society. It's not only the law enforcement agents. You even have the power to arrest and hand over to the police where you found somebody in the scene of crime. So now you see these issues, because we are men in our society, sometimes they're a little bit delicate, but for you to overlook is an offense on your side. Now you have spoken up. Sometimes you may need to report such to the statutory bodies that are empowered by law to carry out prosecution and investigation on issues like this. You have the NAPTIP. They are empowered by law to come in. They have their ways, they are trained on how to follow up cases like this. And, I prefer that you go through these statutory bodies, because on one hand, you could draw the attention of, if it is the child is not the original child of the parent or of the people that is living with, it could be a dicey issue. But some parents, original parents, they don't really care much about their own children. Some have so many children that even if one or two die, I'm not being sarcastic, because I have seen it time and again where parents are so nonchalant about what happens to their children. They'll be shouting and insisting that whatever you see, it is better for you to endure and go through it than to come back home and all. So I think in summary, you can draw the attention of NAPTIP. If the person is a grown-up person, then you can report to places like Human Rights Commission, where they are trained, both lawyers and social workers. They are properly trained on how to go about the investigation. I think for now, yes, but for you to just keep watching and after having intervened in your personal capacity, it didn't work and you are just looking, it is wrong. You are a student of the society, you are an enforcer of the standard of the society, and these are the responsibilities that come with this. It's not just to study it and have a certificate. These are the standards we are talking about in the society, because a child has a right to be alive. A child has a right to be protected from brutality. The child has the right of the dignity of his or her own life. When all of these things are being taken and you can do something in your own capacity and where you keep quiet, then it means you have not realized your role as far as the society is concerned. Any other question before we
Right.
quit the
Thank you,
lecture?
ma.
All right. Okay. All right, sorry we didn't start this lecture on time, but I don't want to go beyond 12. So I'm believing that tomorrow I'll try to set up earlier and handle the hitches. But help me, I inform as many that are taking this course that you can see how you are already benefiting from the class practically as you relate these issues with your day-to-day. So don't just be an observer. You can contribute and also learn from what you are contributing. Your classmates will also learn from what you are contributing. And your question will also bring clarity to another person. So subsequently, let's try to hang on and be present so that we can take home what the class has designed for us. So see you tomorrow then. Thank you.
Thank you, ma.
Ma.
All right, bye.
Thank you, ma.
Okay, bye.
Uncle T. Yes, sir.